mean, it's early days. What can I tell you? I'm Anthony Davis. Welcome to the Anthony Davis Show. It's just after 9 a.m. here on the West Coast. I'm in Los Angeles, California. And whoever you are, wherever you are, welcome to Backchannel. It's a whole new thing. And we're really kind of starting to feel this now. Like, the whole way it works is I sit here and chat, talk about the news, talk about stuff, and then you can do whatever you want to do in your home, but you can just chat to me by talking to your device. So you don't even really need to touch anything. Once you've opened Backchannel on your Echo show, you just use the magic word, which is her name. I'm not allowed to say it. You might call your device Echo. Some people do, but the default name, female name, and then you say, the word say, and then after the word say, whatever you want to say to me. You've got like 4 or 5 seconds to say something, and then it pings right straight here, and I can see it, and I can read it, and I can read it out, and it can be part of the program. So it's like a whole new thing. And I can't quite believe it myself. Maybe that's why I'm a bit like... So I tried it this morning. I was listening to Kate and Will, because they had the show a couple of hours ago. And I'm sitting there, and they're just on my Echo Show device, and they're asking questions, and they're chatting away, and I asked my female name, won't mention it, don't want to set things off in your apartment, and they were saying it on the air, and I was like, this is the future. So, this is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show. It's 2 hours every morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast, and we're going to take a little look through the morning papers this morning and see, what's happening across the United States of America. See how this country is shaping up on this Tuesday morning. Still got the climate conference going on in Glasgow in Scotland, so there's obviously ramifications from that. We were talking yesterday a little bit about how you might change, your way of life thanks to the planet. And we're going to kind of work with that a little bit this morning and continue that conversation a little bit. But Backchannel itself is a whole new thing, and if you are using it right now, you are a pioneer. You literally are one of these new people that has joined a revolution. So thank you. There's always the political revolution you could join as well, but if that's not your thing, if you're more moderate, then join the Backchannel revolution. And it's happening all the time. There's more hosts cropping up all the time that you can join. And you can just chat to me and be part of the show. And I'm really thrilled. So let's take a look at what's coming up. We're going to be zigzagging across the United States and looking at some of the morning newspapers. And then later on, we're going to be talking a little bit about a very interesting story about students and homelessness. And that's something to consider. It's a big story. Hi to Rihanna, who's joined us from California. Thank you very much for being part of the program. I'd almost like to congratulate you on being first. Sometimes if I'm going into a shop that's just opened, like on a 9 o'clock in the morning, and they just unlock the doors and I go in, I'm like, here I am. Like, is there a prize for being the first customer? Because the shop is always open. There's not necessarily any customers in the shop. You see? Very clever. So we're going to take a look at the morning papers. I really want to look at the Atlanta Journal this morning because it's one of those newspapers that probably doesn't get enough mention. And what we like to do is look at some of the local papers in local states. And so the headlines on the front of the Atlanta Journal Constitution this morning, their strapline is, "It's worth knowing what's really going on." Hi, Susan. Thanks for joining the stream. If you want to talk to me at any time, you just say your activation word, then the word say, and then whatever you want. And then I can, bring you in, as it were. So we actually have a newspaper from Missouri. So we'll be able to bring that up, and you'll be able to get local news on this international platform. It's a little bit like magic. So thank you, Susan. Nice to know you're there. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution this morning leads with, "As travel ban lifts, loved ones reunite." And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, didn't we? Do you remember? This was the story about the travel ban on the whole border. I mean, Mexico, Canada, but also all flights are now coming in from all over the world, and including my own family coming from Europe. The headline, Hartsfield Jackson, a joyful scene as families greet members who've been barred entry. It says flower bouquets, balloons and children with homemade welcome signs brightened the international terminal at Hartsfield Jackson, where dozens of people gathered on Monday to reunite with loved ones not seen in months because of COVID-19 travel restrictions. You see, it's very hard to explain as an immigrant, which I am. You know, I'm a foreign national. In case you hadn't noticed that my accent is not that American, but I do say garage instead of garage. It's a very big difference. But enough about the Brits. They're old history. Also on the front of the newspaper, Georgia school enrollment starts growing again by a small margin. This is public schools, saw growth in pre-K, kindergarten, and high school freshmen. We'll talk about schools in just a moment. And police missed killing by seconds. This is a local story about Armand Arbery, who was beyond help by the time the officer arrived on the scene after he was lynched, and the court case is currently underway. So, and then finally on the front of the paper is why millions of job seekers still aren't getting hired now. Employer demands, employee desires often don't match up. And they say even as the United States has a near record number of job openings and companies complain they can't find enough workers, some job seekers remain frustrated that they've not been able to get a job despite filling out dozens of applications daily on popular job sites like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn, and Craigslist. Or as you say in America, Craig. I've had to learn. Is it Craigslist? This is a whole new thing for me, and I love it. Who is Craig, anyway? So that's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That's how the stories look on the front of that newspaper this morning. And it's very interesting. The great thing about being in such a huge country, because I think of America as 50 countries. I really do. I mean, you have your own police services, or police forces, as they're called. You have your own local laws and local rules and local mayors and local constitutions and state legislatures, as we've discovered. So it's almost as if, I mean, how often do you leave your own state and go somewhere else and be like, this is like a different country? Because it is. I mean, local laws are often very different. So anyway, it's very interesting. And Atlanta is one of the great places. I've been to Atlanta, Hartsfield Jackson. It's actually one of the busiest airports in America, home of Delta Airlines. They also have the tallest control tower there out of any control tower of any American airport. Isn't that interesting? No, I didn't think so. But it's where they filmed the movie Flight with Denzel Washington. Did you see that movie? Such a great film. And I stayed in the hotel, I think it might be a Hilton that's actually airside at the Hartsfield Jackson Airport, where they filmed most of the scenes of him before the court case. Maybe tonight's a good time to watch Flight. That's what I'm going to be doing. So we'll talk about aeroplanes and flying a little bit later in the show, because that's a big subject for me. I used to have a pilot's license. You wouldn't want to fly with me now. I can't remember anything. Okay, let's move on with the morning papers. There's another paper, and that is the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that's next. And I also really love the names of these local newspapers, don't you? It reminds me of yesteryear, in a way. Because local news is not something that is, growing. It's diminishing, everything's becoming nationalized. So the Fort Worth Star-Telegram leads with UNT Board of Regents names new chancellor. Dr. Michael Williams' claim to fame as president of the University of North Texas Health Science Center for the last 9 years is something he didn't do: raise tuition. He identified the problem of graduates' increasing debt load and applied his skills in both entrepreneurship and medicine, it says. And he plans to bring the same empathy and spirit of disruption to his new role as Chancellor of the University of North Texas System. You see? This is the news. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. There's a big photograph of Santa Claus on the front. Santa Pappy Claus, it says. His name's really Mike Stevens. A lovely photo of him with a green hat. Because, Father Christmas is actually more green, I think, originally. Isn't he Norwegian? I think in Norway he was green. Anyway, the whole red thing happened because of Coca-Cola. You must know this story. Father Christmas, aka Santa Claus, originally had a green look when he came out of Norway, and by the time it moved west, the whole Santa Claus story, by the time it moved west, I think in the 1950s, Coca-Cola was a big thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you're very welcome to message me. Just talk to your device with the word say, and then, yes, Anthony, you're correct. Coca-Cola did turn Santa Claus red, or, nah, you're just making it up. So, pick one. Stick with it. You know how to do that. Just talk to your device. Now you've joined the stream. Susan's joined the stream. Rihanna's joined the stream. So all you have to do is just communicate to your device whilst you're doing something else, whilst you're buttering your toast. Susan, we're gonna move on to your newspaper in just a moment, so I don't want you to have to leave. So let me find is it the Missouri Star, Carla? Let me have a look here, because we have... Oh, it's the Star Leader. Okay, I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit to get Susan's newspaper. No, I can't see it here. That's interesting. I can see the Tennessean, and I can see others. Oh, there it is. Thank you so much. Carla, by the way, is producing this program in London. And here I am in Los Angeles. That's why there's a little bit of a delay. just a little bit. The Springfield News Leader. Susan, this is just for you. It's literally an exclusive newspaper review just for you. Because, we've got something going now. You're in Missouri. Here's your local paper. The headline, Energy Rebates Spark Interest. It says, it's not too late for Springfield area households to take advantage of city utilities. Programs that could save some cash over the winter. And if Missouri is anything like California, the Department of Water and Power here, they have a machine in their office where they press a button, it generates a random high number, and that's your monthly bill. Just generates a random... There is no consistency between February and March. I don't know how they do it. They're making so much money. So it says here in late September, CU began warning customers that natural gas bills this winter could cost ratepayers double the dollars that they paid last year. And during a presentation on CU's financials at the most recent board meeting on October 28th, the chief financial officer offered a friendly reminder. CU does not make one dime or one penny or one half penny off of natural gas sales that we pass through to our customers. If we pay $2, then they pay $2, she said. And shortly afterward, outreach programs that can help ratepayers hold down costs came up for a brief discussion, especially level pay. Now, this is very interesting, isn't it? Because any organization, and I think, some medical organizations do this as well, some of the big hospital groups, they claim to be non-profit, don't they? And any organization that is big and has got property and is, they claim to be non-profit, is not really true. So I'm just interested to know where you're at with this and whether or not this is something that you recognize. When they say it's free, it ain't really free. No such thing as a free lunch. Also on the front of the newspaper, Trump allies Wood, Flynn appear at fundraiser in Springfield. Yes, the controversial retired General Michael Flynn and lawyer Lynn Wood, both whom have called for a military coup following the 2020 election, were in Springfield over the past week as part of an event called Preserving America. So that's how that one looks. And then the final story is recouping costs after $2 million city investment, sports town to charge 1% sales tax. So there you go, Susan. I hope you enjoyed your exclusive newspaper review, and hopefully you'll join me tomorrow and we'll find out what's going on in the Springfield News Leader at around the same time. This is... Talk about bespoke. We couldn't do more, Susan. We couldn't do more. And if you have friends that have an Echo Show device, this is it's an Amazon speaker with a screen. That's all you need to be part of this amazing Backchannel experience. It's 9:15. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show, as it says down there. Just get in front of that. There we go. The Anthony Davis Show. And I'm here every morning between 9 and 11 Pacific. That's noon and 2 Eastern. So thank you for joining the show. And anytime you want to drop in or drop out with some words, this is the whole point of Backchannel. I'm sure that that's why they chose the word Backchannel, because this is your back channel to the show. So just chat with us in the only way you know how. Okay, let's get back to the important matters in hand. I think weren't we just about to look at the Sacramento Bee? I think that's probably the next thing on our list. We're literally zigzagging around the country. Riyadh, thank you for joining the show. I mean, this is so heartwarming to know that, you've not only logged on, but you're actually going to talk to us throughout. And the Sacramento Bee is the next newspaper, and Riyadh, this is just for you, because you yourself are in, I won't say specifically, but I know that you're in the Northern California area. So maybe Sacramento Bee kind of gave it away. Anyway, this one's for you. The headline on the front of the newspaper is "Local Students Finally Home After Being Stuck in Afghanistan." It says, it's talking about a family and kids arriving at Ethel I. Baker Elementary on Monday morning. The school's announcement board had a message: "Welcome back." 3 Sacramento City Unified children and their parents have returned home to Sacramento after months of uncertainty and scrambling across Afghanistan while coordinating with a principal half a world away. That journey culminated with a return to classes on Monday. You see, this is the effect of opening the border. This is the effect. Riyadh says, "What's up, Anthony?" Well, let me tell you, quite a lot is up with me. I had my COVID booster at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, so I'm feeling great. I feel like bionic. I'm like the bionic man today. Maybe it's because I've taken so much Tylenol to counteract a slightly sore arm, but otherwise I'm fine. Okay, let's see what else is happening on the front of the Sacramento Bee this morning. As rules ease, travelers head to the US for emotional reunions. We've seen this on a few of the morning papers, interestingly, because obviously it's such a big deal. I mean, you really have to understand. I can't really overestimate the importance of opening the border yesterday and having people from all around the world come here, because it's been closed for 20 months. It's such a big deal. And my family are all coming on the 15th. So if you want to come to LAX with me and welcome them, they're all going to be here. And they would love to see you. Susan, you can come join me from Missouri. Riyadh, you can come down from somewhere in Northern California. And we'll have this huge welcoming committee. My mum will be like, "I tell you what, I'm getting back on the plane." So the headline is, as rules ease, travelers head to US for emotional reunions. It says the US fully reopened its borders with Mexico and Canada on Monday and lifted restrictions on travel that covered most of Europe, setting the stage for emotional reunions nearly 2 years in the making and providing a boost for the travel industry decimated by the pandemic. We forget that aspect, don't we? That there's like a whole industry of people working in travel agents and people working at the airlines and at the airports, and they've literally been either furloughed or they're, effectively just waiting for a fresh job. Okay, so that was the Sacramento Bee. Actually, there might be one more story on the front of the Sacramento Bee that I wanted to read. And this is Biden faces fresh challenges after infrastructure victory. It says he's been here before. President Joe Biden doesn't need to look any further back than his time as vice president to grasp the challenges that lie ahead in promoting his new $1 trillion infrastructure deal to the American people and getting the money out of the door fast enough that they can feel real impact. Well, he's very welcome to direct deposit it to me, and I'll distribute it suitably. So there you go, Riyadh. That's the Sacramento Bee. That's how it's looking for you in Sacramento and surrounding districts. The Tennessean is next on our list. Let's see what's happening there. If anyone's from Tennessee and they're listening and they haven't yet joined in, well, join in. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. All you have to do is introduce yourself by asking your device, if you've got an Echo Show, just to open Backchannel. The app will open. If it's the first time you've done it, it'll ask you your name and where you're from. But if it's not the first time you've done it, you don't have to reintroduce yourself. That's the great thing about this, is it will just work. It just works, and you can just make your breakfast and you can chat to me via your Echo device. I don't know how it works. It just does. So give it a try. The Tennessean this morning leads with respect. Titans have earned some. This is during a timeout at Sophie Stadium on Sunday night. They showed Dr. Dre followers by Paris Hilton in a Los Angeles Rams jersey. I don't know what any of that means. That is like classic Americanisms. There are some things I just check out on. I mean, I think I recognize Dr. Dre and maybe Paris Hilton. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm not really a sports person. If you want to know the results, you're asking the wrong man. It says victory over the Rams in Los Angeles heightens teams' belief that they're one of NFL's elite. I mean, the only thing I really know about sport here, which is very important, is that there is is he LA Dodgers? There's a guy called Anthony Davis who's a very big basketball guy in this town. He might be like the biggest star in this industry. And here's an example of this. I went to IKEA to do a click and collect. You know, I bought like $40 worth of stuff I'm never going to need. And I'm waiting in the car, and 30 IKEA people came down with my stuff because they saw my name on the list and they thought they were about to meet a big sports person. A tall black man with a monobrow. They were very disappointed to discover this 46-year-old overweight bearded chap. They were very disappointed. I said I could grow a monobrow, but the rest might be difficult. So, you know, I have to deal with this day in, day out. I also have one of those blue LA Dodgers hats, which I wear, and I didn't even know it was a sporty hat. I just thought it was like a tourist's hat. People ask me, "Do you see the game?" I'm like, no. Infrastructure, win, hands, Biden, fresh challenges. Similar story, different newspaper. President's poll numbers have gradually dropped in the past few months, it says. I do really feel like he could do more to communicate what he's doing. You know, he's so maybe it's because Obama was so chill. I think Biden's trying to be chill in like a kind of more of a mature man way, which means he doesn't really come out and chat all the time. And I think that was the thing about the last administration. That guy would tell you everything, like a stream of consciousness. So you felt like he was doing more and being busier. But the reality is, Biden's got his work cut out, and that's why he never tells us about it. He's just too busy doing. Also on the front of the Tennessean... Is it the Tennessee? Oh, it's just called the Tennessean. I thought it was called the Tennessean Chronicle for some reason. It would actually be a better name. Efforts to vaccinate kids hits new gear, it says, as a few dozen families filtered into the clinic. 6-year-old Lillian Odell proudly held up a stuffed pink pig named Wilbur as she waited for her. I got my COVID-19 vaccine sticker. Isn't that great? I didn't get a sticker yesterday when I had my booster. Maybe I needed to ask for a sticker. Maybe I needed to put in a request for a sticker. Anyway, it's not your problem. You got enough on your plate. Hi Sam, thank you for joining the show. And you're welcome as well to spend your morning with me. I'm here for another hour and 40 minutes, so get comfortable and enjoy Backchannel. It's the Anthony Davis Show. We're looking at some of the newspapers. We've just read through the Tennessean. We've been talking a little bit about Biden, just catching you up, Sam, seeing as you just shown up. So this is kind of what we're up to. Or maybe you were watching and you weren't just joining in then. I mean, this is the other thing. Some people are listening. I might not know about you. Okay, next up is the Daily Advertiser from Louisiana. If you're anyone in Louisiana, if you're listening now and you're in Louisiana, now's a really good time to raise your hand and join us here on Backchannel. They lead with LA to receive over $7 billion from infrastructure bill. That's referring to Louisiana. Guaranteed more than $7 billion from the bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that won final passage during a weekend vote in the U.S. House and will be eligible for billions more in allocations from the legislation. So that's good to know. I wonder what $7 billion is going to buy in Louisiana. I reckon it would get you quite a lot. It might not go as far in California, but in Louisiana, I mean, that's going to be very useful. You see? It's the other thing about these states that I'm learning, you know, completely different economies. I got friends who live in Tulsa. They live like kings. It's so interesting. Testing science, also on the front of the Daily Advertiser. They lead with freshman physical science students at Episcopal School of Acadiana Interesting word, never heard that before. Used cardboard appliances, boxes, cork, duct tape, plastic ties and paint to craft a boat designed to carry at least one passenger through a course at a Spanish lake. Isn't that interesting? It's a little bit like, I guess this is one of those historical competitions that they do, you know, where freshmen, it's a bit like an initiation ceremony, where they have to like jump in the water, make a boat. It's not going to hold water. It's going to sink. The friends are going to laugh. I mean, it really pays to be a teenager, doesn't it? You know, you really get to live. Love it. Also on the front of the newspaper, major increase in early voting, it says, with about 40% of the Lafayette Parish Library's funding on the line in Saturday's election. Last week's early voting is showing higher turnout than the 2018 election that previously cut a library millage. Early voting for the November 13 election ended on Saturday with 6,504 votes cast in Lafayette Parish, according to the Louisiana Secretary of State. So, yes, considering a handful of property tax renewals, including library millage. That's the how the Daily Advertiser looks. Very interesting. I really feel like we really are zigzagging around the United States, and we're going quite quickly here as well. Okay, so let's go back and see what else. If you knew how many tabs I had open right now, you would literally start to have your heart rate would increase. My watch is going to go off in a minute with an alert saying too many tabs open. This is the modern world. Okay, so that was Louisiana. One thing I do want to talk about, interestingly, well, you'll be the judge of that. But we're gonna go back and look at the Star Fort Worth Telegram, or the Fort Worth Star Telegram again in just a moment, because there's a story there that we touched on briefly, about college students and homelessness. And I do want to talk about being a student, because I never went to university. You know, like I was at 16, I was out there in the wide world. And it's very interesting now. You know, I have kids, so I do think about the kind of life they're going to lead and the kind of education they're going to get and the kind of jobs they're going to get. And it does worry me. I mean, in a way, I'm kind of saving money now just to give to them, because I don't know what kind of jobs are going to be available in like 15 years' time. I can't really imagine what this planet is going to look like in 15 years' time. But the point is that, you know, the world is changing in so many ways. And getting a good education, of course, is essential. But at the same time, you know, and I know that they claim that you need a graduate degree to kind of get a good job, but what about all of those people that are not really designed to be graduates in that way? I don't actually think anybody in my family went to university. Nobody. Not a single one of the Davis family is educated outside of high school. Isn't that crazy? So let me read you the story from the paper, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm very interested to know how you feel about this, because this is something that touches everybody. It says, as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to put people at risk of facing insecurities with basic needs, a Tarrant County exhibit is highlighting college students who experience homelessness. A report by the Hope Center for College, Community and Justice at Temple University found that 3 in 5 college students across the country experienced insecurity with basic needs during the pandemic. And the basic needs is like food, housing, and employment, right? Well, COACT is a social impact organization working to generate creative and inclusive solutions to problems facing the Fort Worth area, and its latest project is using a traveling art installation and virtual experience to help the public understand homelessness. So this is something I thought we would talk about. I want to know what your experiences were like as a student, and did you have to hold down a job at the same time as studying? Because a lot of people do, because you know, student debt is something that follows a lot of people for the rest of their lives. And I have friends who are in their 30s and 40s, and they're still getting phone calls from debt, recovery services trying to get money back on these because they refinance their student loans and stuff like that. And this becomes a lifelong problem. So, what did you do to get yourself through university? Did you have to fit an evening job? Did you work in a bar? Did you deliver milk? Does anybody deliver milk in the mornings anymore? Or did that finish in 1972? If you did deliver milk, that's also a good one for talking to your speaker and communicating with me. So, it's 9:30. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis, and we're talking a little bit about students and homelessness and how the two are intrinsically linked these days, as it's increasingly difficult to make enough money if you've got student debt or if indeed you're studying at the same time in order to pay for your tuition. And do colleges and universities even take into consideration enough that young people need to hold down a job and pay bills and also meet their coursework deadlines? There's a lot there to unpack. Susan, Riyadh, Sam, thank you for joining us. Riyadh says, I went to some community college for 2 years before university. That's interesting. I think that I don't really know exactly how the college system works here compared to where I'm from, but I do recognize that it's almost as if, maybe you could tell me, how much free college is there? Like if you went to community college, Riyadh, did you have to pay for community college, or was that just covered by the state? And then when you went to university, is that when the debt started to rack up? You can let me know by talking to your device in the usual way. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. So yeah, you just use the magic word, whatever your activation word is, followed by say, and then you can communicate. And that's exactly what Riyadh's doing right now. He's saying, yep, you have to pay. Well, even for community college, you have to pay. He said community college, though, is pretty cheap. Well, I hope you got value for money. That's all I care about, as long as you got value for money. Incidentally, I didn't have a sip of a drink yesterday during 2 hours. I have a hot tea, and I also have 2 chocolate cookies, and I am determined to ingest them at some point during this program. Just bear that in mind. So if that happens, you'll know why. Riyadh says he was working at Starbucks, and he paid for it pretty easily. What, Starbucks paid that well to cover community college? I'm very pleased about that. And you see, you learn something every day. I'm still on a 20-year boycott of Starbucks. I mean, I still go in there, but I just don't like to talk about it. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. If you're joining us here, joining our stream, joining the show, then be my guest. You're welcome in. And if you've got an Echo Show device, that's the perfect way to enjoy Backchannel, because you get to see us as well as hear us. And you don't have to stare at me. I'm sure you could do better. But you could walk around your house just listening to this show and just bark orders at your device and it'll come to me. So I'm a little bit like a butler, like an English butler. I'll just do stuff for you. You just have to shout it out. This is the Backchannel. This is the Anthony Davis Show. It's 9:33. Thank you for joining us. So we're talking about college, and I'm really interested in your experiences as a student this morning, and if you had to hold down a job at the same time as studying, which I didn't really do. I was out of school at 16, and I was just working straight away, working in department stores, selling goods to unsuspecting tourists, and they're the easiest ones to sell to because they don't know the price of anything, because they haven't worked out the exchange rate. So I was flogging stuff all the time. And I do feel like those early years, when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, like those early years of your first jobs, they really stay with you, don't they? They really they're such a valuable training. And for me, talking to foreigners, and learning different cultures and dialects and learning to, do pidgin English effectively was I feel like it was the ultimate apprenticeship. And that's really what we crave. And also, how do you feel about education? Because some people are just not into it. I mean, I personally, not a great believer in it because I didn't have much of one. I'm mostly self-taught. So do you think it's possible to navigate this crazy world these days and be uneducated but self-taught? You can still be well-read and well-studied. I mean, I have a younger brother and sister. They learned most of their popular cultural knowledge from watching The Simpsons. I mean, there are quite good messages in those shows. So there are different ways to learn. You don't have to learn the traditional way, through college, community college, and university. There are other ways. So yeah, you can talk to your device, and then in turn I will read out your message and you can join the program. Is college still worth it these days? That's what I'm asking here on Backchannel. And if you didn't go to college and you took the University of Life route, do you feel that you missed out in any way? Or are you happy with your decision? Let me know, as only you know how. And I do like that phrase, University of Life, isn't it? Because it's a real thing. You know, there's a lot to learn out in the real world that you can't learn in the classroom. And I guess as I get older, I don't regret not studying algebra and also all the people that I know that did go to university. They're not doing jobs now that are related to their course or their degree or their qualification. In fact, most of them weren't even interested. They just went wherever they could get in or wherever they could afford, because some places are more expensive than others. So do you regret all of those years that you committed to education? Would you have preferred to maybe go straight into work? Because some people do that, don't they? As I did. You go straight into work, and you could argue that that gives you a few years of an apprenticeship in an industry. You work out if you like it or not, and before you know it, you've actually you're the CEO of the company you joined as an intern 4 or 5 years later, whilst your contemporaries are still learning about a subject they have no interest in. You see, there are advantages to being less academic. So let me know. Join Backchannel, join the stream, just talk to your device, use the activation word, then say is the magic word. Say enables you to communicate with us here at Backchannel. And whatever you want to talk about comes through to me and we'll put you in the show. It's kind of how it works. Very clever. Don't know how it works. Just does. Okay, please let me have a sip of the tea. Please, I made it. This is actually Earl Grey, which I read my favorite movie director is Christopher Nolan, and apparently he drinks it all day on set. Just has an Earl Grey on the go all the time. So if it's good enough for him, good enough for me. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. It's very perfumey, you know, an Earl Grey tea. It has what do they call that? Is it bergamot? Is that what the smell is? I don't know whether to drink it or put some behind my ears. Anyway, it's very fruity in here now. Very fruity. Riyadh says bergamot, yes. Would the T be silent, Riyadh? Does one say bergamot? I guess that might be a French word. You tell me, because I don't know. Hi, Pat. Thank you for joining the stream. Nice to know that you're part of the program as well. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show. It's 9:38 Pacific, 12:38 Eastern, and I'm here every morning or every lunchtime, depending on where you are in the United States of America. I'm currently in Los Angeles, California, and it feels like I'm inside SpongeBob SquarePants' costume, but I'm not. It's like, let me out of here. This is what they do with people, you know. Come to America, you have to spend 6 months inside one of these. So, thank you for your messages. Lots of people now joining the stream. You're very welcome to do that. And I think you probably know how, but I'll reiterate that if you haven't yet taught your Echo show device that you are here and you are in a certain place, you just ask it to open Backchannel. That's all you have to do. Just say to it, open Backchannel. The Backchannel app opens, and then you say, it'll ask you actually, it's a lovely female voice, and it says in a very sultry way, hi, what is your name? And you say your name, and then it says, where are you? And you say where you are, and that's it. Your device remembers that for the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And then you're able to communicate with Backchannel at any time just by using your activation word, Echo, or the default female name, which I shall not mention, as I don't want to activate your garage door. And then you say the word say, that's the magic word, and then you follow that with your message, whatever you want it to be. So, incidentally, on this network, I also do another show. It's like a daily show, and it's like a news program, and it basically just brings you the latest US news. It's only 2 minutes long, so if you want to, go to the restroom or make yourself a cup of tea or something, we're just going to see how that sounds. And this is US News Update. Take a listen. It's Tuesday, November 9. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US update. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden and top officials in cabinet are hitting the road to promote the $1 trillion infrastructure. I came back because there was a technical thing that stopped that from working. It was an experiment. We were just trying it out today, but it sounded like it was a bit staccato, and that's not good enough for us. So we'll make it work and we'll play it later. The downside to that is I was going to have a sip of this and I was going to eat one of these 2 cookies, and it didn't even happen. I mean, what chance does a man have to have a snack? Breakfast is a whole thing for me now. It's like a whole new
last
thing.
week.
It's changed completely. Like the way what you first ingest in the morning, it's essential. And I used to have, like a muesli or oatmeal, and I've stopped that, and now I just have cookies. It's much better for your internal system. You have 2 cookies before you go to work. You have 2 cookies at work. It's the cookie diet. I found out about it on Sesame Street. Good morning, and welcome to the Anthony Davis Show here on Backchannel. We are talking about being in college and what it's like to have a job at the same time as studying. And if that's something that you've done, if you had to pay for your college by doing a part-time job, I'm very interested to know what it is. So thank you very much for joining us. Rihanna's in California, Pat's in Oregon, Riyadh's in Northern California or thereabouts. And so if you want to join in, you just talk to your device, say the usual phrase, which is your activation word, followed by say, followed by your message. Comes straight through. All voice activated. No typing, no texting, no keyboard, nothing. We have freed you from the keyboard here with Backchannel. It's very clever. I've also been asking if colleges and universities take into consideration enough the young people that need to hold down a job to pay bills and meet their coursework. And this all goes back to this story that we've been looking at on the front of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The headline is Exhibit Shares College Student's Story of Their Homelessness. And this is how serious it can become. If you're not working and if you're paying your college bills and if you don't have a job. It says, as the pandemic continues to put people at risk of facing insecurities with basic needs, a Tarrant County exhibit is highlighting college students who experience homelessness. It's a report by the Hope Center for College, Community and Justice at Temple University found that 3 in 5 college students across the country have experienced insecurity with basic needs during the pandemic. So this is it's a social impact organization called COACT, and it's been working to generate creative and inclusive solutions to problems facing the Fort Worth area. And its latest project is using this traveling art installation. It's like a virtual experience to help the public understand homelessness. And we touched on homelessness a little bit yesterday here on Backchannel because we were talking about, certainly in California, it's very interesting how homeless people, they do invariably pick a warm climate, a state that is warm. That means that they're not going to be out in the cold. And that is why there is a disproportionate number of homeless people in these warm states. And certainly in California, which is a very progressive state, there are more facilities available for people who are homeless or unhoused, as they're often called now. But it is a huge problem here in California, certainly in Los Angeles and absolutely in San Francisco. And so the mayor and the governors, they're constantly being questioned and criticized for it because it's one of those problems that you can't not see. It's right there. It's very difficult to ignore. And some people have a very kind of warm and thoughtful and kind attitude towards it. And other people are like, get these people off the streets. And they're very critical because, of course, the opioid crisis in the US has been contributing to this. Doctors prescribing opioids for pain relief, people getting addicted, losing their jobs, losing their homes, and ending up on the street. It's a massive issue. And the thing is, and we really need to think about this, it can actually happen to any of us. we're only, for a lot of people in the US, we are only a couple of paychecks away from this ourselves. And debt here is massive. I think the average American has $35,000 worth of credit card debt. And how do you start with that? And if you've got student debt as well, if going to university or college has put you in a position where you've got that debt to deal with and then other debts as well as maybe a mortgage or a rent to pay, it can be really difficult. So we've been looking this morning at this story on the front of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and talking about how people, I think educating people is really important, because that's the problem with people who are critical of homelessness. They aren't considering the fact that it could be them and that the journey to homelessness is actually very short. It's not like for some people, some people are compromised emotionally, mentally, and they don't have a choice. But other people started out with good jobs and nice homes, and that all just disappeared very quickly. And that's why we shouldn't judge, in my view. So did you have a job that got you through university? Did it pay for your college? Where were you working? Riyadh worked in Starbucks, and he went to community college for a couple of years, and then he went on to university. But he said community college was affordable, and he meant that by working in Starbucks, he was able to afford community college, which is great. I wonder what hours you worked there, Riyadh. I mean, how did your day work? What kind of, did you do first thing in the morning and then do lessons in the afternoon, or was it a night job? Some people work overnight or early mornings for it all to fit. You can let me know. Say your activation word, then say, and then your message, and it'll just come in. Oh, he did the opening shift at 5 a.m. You see? Very, very, that's what I like about you, Riyadh. It's your work ethic. That's why we get on so well. I mean, I was doing the same. I remember I used to do driving lessons early in the morning when I was 17 or 16, 17. I used to do driving lessons. My driving instructor would pick me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I would do this driving lesson because I was desperate to learn to drive. And then he would allow me to drop myself at the station so I could take the subway all the way to the department store where I worked selling garbage to tourists. And I think I earned about twice what I spent on the driving lesson. I think my earnings were so small that I just about covered the driving lesson and had a little bit left over for a cheese and tomato sandwich. Couldn't afford meat. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show every weekday between 9 and 11 a.m. It says it down there. It's 9:48 Pacific, 12:48 Eastern. Wherever you are and whoever you are, welcome to Backchannel. And as I said earlier, the whole point of Backchannel, the whole point of this venture is that you are able to talk to us, be part of the show, engage with the hosts, and all you have to do is use your voice. No typing, no texting, no setup. It's so simple. And I was doing it this morning with Will and Kate, who were on a couple of hours ago. And I was making tea. I actually told them that I was making tea. And then they said, oh, Anthony's making tea. I was making my tea. They were doing their show. And I really felt a part of it. And this is what will work for you as well. So, yeah, you just talk to your device. You become, it's like a special relationship, you and your Echo Show, which, if Riyadh's anything to go by, he has a 10-inch Echo Show. He told me this yesterday, whereas, sadly, mine is only 5 inches. But, hope springs eternal. We've been discussing college this morning and how important it is to be educated versus not these days. What is it about having an education, maybe in a subject? I mean, maybe, Riyadh, you can tell me what it is that you studied at university and college. It'd be interesting to know whether your job now has anything to do with what it is you were educated in. And I think that's often the case, isn't it, with people, that they spend years studying for something that never really becomes their thing. Be good to know. Okay, so this morning we're also going to be looking at a story in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution regarding people looking for jobs. And this was, we mentioned when we were looking through the newspapers this morning, management science. Oh, that's what you studied, Riyadh. Now, that's very interesting. I wonder if would you say that kind of connects to your job now, management science? Do you feel that whatever it is you do for a living now is supported and fed by your management science degree? Don't tell me. Tell Echo's show, and then she'll tell me. She's like the agent, the go-between. Ah, interesting. A lot of maths was used. A lot of math. Well, I guess that's kind of important, especially if you work in tech. You need to be able to, add stuff up. So it says, even as the United States, this is a story from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, even as the United States has a near record number of job openings and companies complain they can't find enough workers, some job seekers are frustrated that they've not been able to get a job despite filling out dozens of applications. And this is the downside, I guess, to the pandemic. It's meant that you can't go and present yourself in person to places like you maybe used to. Do you remember the days of dropping off a resume and hanging around, trying to make friends with the receptionist, just desperate to get in there somehow? And then, of course, now, post-pandemia, those days are over. And now everything has to be done. It's almost leveled the playing field a little bit, hasn't it? It's almost made it more of an even application process because everybody has to do it online. No special treatment. You think? I don't know. So send me a chat. Send me a message. Tell me where you're at with this. And do you feel that getting work has actually been harder since the pandemic? Because people are complaining they can't find, companies are complaining they can't find workers, and yet job seekers are complaining they can't find jobs. Riyadh says that being educated in management science helps you learn how to think. Well, that's a very interesting point because, when I was criticizing the fact that some people were doing degrees in subjects that they were never going to work in, the reality is that learning how to learn is very important, right? Just like being in the classroom environment, learning the process of learning. It's like brain training. I do it now with my tap dancing. Now, I know what you're going to say, but I've always found that tap dancing, learning to isolate your heel and the ball of your foot and your toe and it's like brain training. So occasionally on a Sunday morning, I go and do a tap dancing class. Please, don't judge me. And when you please, I can sense you judging me. And when I've been in the beginners class for nearly 40 years now, but when I see other humans coming into the class who have never done tap dancing before, they have zero control of the toe versus the heel versus the ball. They just can't do it. It's really fascinating to watch them. And it takes a few classes to kind of learn how to make those moves, but you are having to isolate muscles. And so I'm never going to tap dance for a living, but having the brain training keeps me sharp, keeps me fresh. It gives me the skills to do this program. Although, maybe I am wearing the tap shoes right now. Maybe throughout this, I've been doing a little time step the whole time, and you just never knew about it. You see? These are the jokes, folks. So we've been looking at the Fort Worth Telegram this morning and looking at this interesting story about homelessness. This is students with their debt, and then also talking about university and really the importance of getting yourself an education and how necessary it is to be educated and then use that education in the workplace. But also this fascinating story about why it is that people just don't seem to be able to find jobs. And why is it that if places, I hear about it all the time, some of these big employers, the Walmarts of this world, they are struggling to find people. And some people who are critical of maybe the coronavirus support that's been there, where there's been additional unemployment and additional payments made. Some people have been critical of this, and they've actually said, well, maybe people are just got comfortable taking money from the government and they don't want to work. And I'm not convinced that that's a thing. You know, I actually feel like fundamentally as humans, we all need to do something. I think a tiny, tiny percentage of people are the ones who will be like, well, you know, I'm getting government money. I don't need to work. How many is that? That's like a 0.005%. I think naturally, like as humans, we have a desire to go and do something every day, to go out and to work and to interact with other humans and to do good and then be paid. And being paid is almost a bonus because we need a daily activity. And if you know what it's like being unemployed and going for those weeks or months or years where you are struggling to get work, it's like you're not just getting work because you need to earn. You're getting work because you need to do something. Like you need to live. So how do we qualify this kind of desire to work and also this kind of human necessity to actually be doing something? And maybe you have a funny story about a job that you've had. Maybe you've taken a job that was just so ridiculous because you needed to do something. And I look back on jobs that I had when I was first in the workplace, you know, at 16, 17, 18, stuff that I did. And now I look back and go, how did I even do that? I remember dressing up as a 7-foot caterpillar for the opening of a store. It was like a home care store, like a DIY store, and being photographed at the front of a local newspaper because I was the caterpillar was called Giggle Wiggle. It's the 7-foot caterpillar. And I travelled a long way on 2 trains carrying this costume, and I was paid so little I barely covered my train fare. But in those days, it was like you would do anything. It's very interesting what you'll do, the lengths you'll go to when you are a young, impressionable, naive, uneducated human caterpillar. That's a whole other conversation. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. Welcome to the Anthony Davis Show. It's 9:57, almost 10 o'clock here on the West Coast. East Coast coming up for 1 o'clock lunchtime. If you're taking a break, going for lunch, having a snack, I'm starving. Please don't mention it. Not a word. The cookies here, maybe I'll just show them to... Oh, they're actually disintegrating. These are magnificent. Okay, we're going to try our video again because, you know, there's this news bulletin that I do. It's like a daily podcast called US News Update, which you can subscribe to as well. As they explain when and where America... Oh, that started from the Volley Network. Let's start it again. Here we go. It's Tuesday, November 9. From the Volley Network, this is Daily US News Update. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden and top officials in his cabinet are hitting the road to promote the $1 trillion infrastructure bill passed in Congress last week, as they explain when and where Americans can expect to see some of the funds in their own communities. White House aides are planning a bipartisan signing ceremony for the infrastructure bill as soon as this week, after it gained final passage on Friday night, and Democrats who control the House of Representatives ended months of bickering and approved it. Biden is also pressing lawmakers to approve a separate... Oh, we got so close. And look how much of the cookie is left. Look how much of the cookie is left. What a shame. Maybe we'll try it again later and I can get the rest of the cookie inside of me. Because I need my vitamins. This is part of my 5 a day. That's what it means. 5 cookies a day. I saw it on Sesame Street. What can I tell you? Bergamot. So, yeah, we'll try the news thing again. I mean, we're definitely going to get it to work. But, you know, you've got to understand the limitations of technology that is so advanced as this. I mean, you're able to talk to your device without even touching it. And I get to see your messages. I mean, that takes quite some beating. And thank you, Riyadh. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending time with the show. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show. It's exactly 10 o'clock here on the West Coast. I'm in Los Angeles, California. And whoever you are and wherever you are, you're very welcome to join Backchannel at any time of day because it's always on and it's really just for you. You know, not here for me. This is for you. We've been looking at the newspapers a little bit this morning and talking about some of the stories that are presenting themselves. And it's very interesting to me that, we've been looking at stories from different newspapers from different states and just learning about how different states report the news as well. So, Jean. Hi, Jean. Nice to know that you've joined the stream. Look at that, straight in there. Jean is from California as well. Thank you, Jean. Nice to know that you're involved. What a pleasure. I'm Anthony, by the way. Nice to meet you, Jean. I'll be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. as well. So if if tomorrow's available for you, then maybe we could make this a daily thing. Just a thought. Maybe Jean, had a job. Did you start with a job? Were you educated whilst you were working? Did you do one of those kind of, a bit like Riyadh was working in Starbucks whilst he was studying management science at community college? Did you do the same thing? Did you have a job at the same time? Let me know. Just say your activation word, followed by say, and then your message. Just communicate using your voice, no texting. That's the magic of Backchannel. So we've been talking about this story in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution regarding people looking for jobs. And it says even as the US has a near record number of job openings and companies complaining they can't find enough workers, some job seekers remain frustrated that they've not been able to get a job despite filling out dozens of applications daily. So I'm interested in your personal experience of job hunting and how you found that has changed maybe during the pandemic. And if indeed you use a service like Indeed. See what I did there? Yeah, me neither. So what are the worst and the weirdest job interviews you've ever had? What are the strangest jobs you've ever had? Jean, let me know. Riyadh, let me know. Pat, let me know. How have you managed to navigate the world of the workplace? Because I've had some crazy jobs. Riyadh says he was a Zamboni driver. I really hope that that's a real thing. I'm trying to think maybe, is that a real thing? Okay. I mean, maybe Zamboni is something else. Maybe that's just like a miscommunication. Maybe it's Lamborghini. Maybe you're a Lamborghini driver. Well, let me know. Use your voice. Oh, the thing that makes the ice move at the ice rink. Oh, what, one of those things you sit on that flattens the ice? Is that called a Zamboni? This is the kind of education, the University of Life that we really need right now. Who needs community college when we have Backchannel? Come to think of it, I never knew what those things were called. I love an ice rink and I love to ice skate, as well as tap dance. But I had no idea that a Zamboni was one of those things that flatten the ice, compress the ice, and that is very clever. Did you get to do some secret skating, like after hours? Once you'd parked up the Zamboni. And he also worked at a Christmas tree farm. I mean, there's a theme here, ice and Christmas. Are you like a secret Santa's helper? Oh, he had the keys to the ice rink, so he actually could let himself in and have a secret skate. I'm still, that whole thing of like swapping your shoes, a little bit like at the bowling alley, swapping the shoes. It's a bit like wearing dead men's shoes. You put your feet into those things and you're like, nah, something not right about this. I do love an ice skate, though. It's very, very, very good for you, to learn balance and core strength and poise. In fact, when I was at school, we actually used to go skating every Thursday with school, like it was a thing. It was part of the curriculum to go ice skating. I'm not making that up. Interesting. It says you've muted my mic. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but it actually says that the host muted your mic. I don't know what that means. But there we are. Okay, so let's continue with our stories this morning. We're talking about technology now. We're going to talk about, this is off the back of a very interesting story that I was reading about earlier this morning. The Apple I computer, which was the original Apple device. Not like the modern iMacs and MacBook Pros. This was the very first Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs. They were best friends. They worked out of Wozniak's garage in California, and they created the Apple I. Well, they reckon that bids for this device, this old computer from the 80s, is going to go for like $600,000. And I mean, when they first put it out, it was probably cost the equivalent of around $3,000 today. I don't know what it was back then, maybe $250. But it was considered a lot of money. An Apple device was expensive. It says the Apple I that's going under the hammer on Tuesday is one of the few surviving examples of Apple's first computer in the world, according to John Moran Auctioneers. The lot includes the Apple I NT1 motherboard and an Apple cassette adapter in a Koa wood case, as well as a Datanetics keyboard, Revision D, a 1986 Panasonic video monitor, an Apple I connecting cable and power supply, the listing states. Isn't that exciting? $600,000 for old Apple tech. So I'm very interested this morning to know if you yourself have got, any old kit and if you still use it. Because the thing about, I'm a big Apple guy. I'm not a PC guy. You can probably tell because I kind of model myself on the late Steve Jobs as best I can. We have the same salt and pepper hair. I just like to run my fingers through it sometimes. I'm wearing a stonewashed jean and a New Balance grey trainer right now. You just have to take my word for it. I took the tap shoes off earlier, switched them. You didn't see. But I have an iMac that I do most of my work on, and it's from 2011. It's a 2011 iMac, and I don't want to upgrade it or change it. I love the look of it. It's the silver one with the Apple logo on the front. It's not like a 4K or 5K. It's the original design, original screen. I've upgraded some of the bits inside. I've put a solid-state drive in it, and I've put a lot more RAM in it, but it's very fast. It's very capable. And that is 10 years old, and it still works. And I think, when people complain that Apple products are too expensive, I think, well, if you bought a PC from 10 years ago, would it still be working as well as this one works? Like, boots up in an instant. No crashing, no delay. Boom, it just works. Boom. That's a real Steve Jobs phrase, isn't it? Boom. He used to say that in his keynote speeches. I'm a bit sad about Steve Jobs. I'm still not really over it, as you can probably tell. He was very holistic about his cancer, wasn't he, Steve Jobs? And they say that if he had taken treatment, therapy, like Western medicine, instead of going the holistic route, he might still be alive. That's pretty sad, isn't it? Anyway, so this Apple I is going on sale at auction. You got any old kit that you're still using that you can't let go of? Maybe a cassette tape, because they're auctioning because they used to use cassette tapes that had data on them. Do you remember? So if you had a computer game, it would often come on what looked like an audio cassette. You'd have to put it in. I mean, we're going back to the early 80s here. So, I mean, if you're not over the age of like 37, I can only apologize. But it's very interesting to me that people still have an interest in this early kit. And so my laptop is from 2013, so that's, about 7 or 8 years old. That's working very well, the MacBook Pro. My iPad here that I'm using from 2017. So you don't really have to have the latest kit. And that's what I feel about the investment in buying Apple, I guess, is that it just lasts a bit longer. But maybe you're a PC person. Are you a Mac or are you a PC? Do you remember those great Apple commercials where they had that young guy who was a bit Steve Jobsy, a little hip? And then on the other side, you had the nerdy guy who was a bit more Bill Gates, like a young Steve and a young Bill. And he would be like, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. And they would argue. And it was such a great series of commercials. And they stopped doing it. But I think those two guys, they were friends, both comedians. They ended up like doing some stand-up and doing the circuit in these characters. Interesting. So are you a Mac or are you a PC? This is Backchannel. All you have to do is talk to your Alexa. Oh, nearly said her name. I nearly said her name. I nearly set off all your devices. Talk to your Echo speaker, ideally an Echo Show with a screen. And once you've activated the Backchannel app, you just chat to your device with me on the screen. Let me out of here. You just say your activation word, echo or the default word, followed by say, followed by your message. Easy. And if you're doing that right now, it'll appear right on my screen. And I'm very grateful to know that you are joining the program and joining in with the program, more importantly. So we're looking at the Apple One, going on sale, bids expected to reach 600,000. I mean, that's not even where it's starting. It could go way higher than that. I do love that there are collectors. I mean, I'm a bit of a hoarder for like old Apple kit. I've got a 2009 17-inch MacBook Pro in pristine condition that I will not let go of it. They don't even make a 17-inch anymore. 16 is the largest they do. It's huge and heavy, and it works like a dream. You see? Something about having old kit that, I don't know, there's a certain nostalgia. I mean, I'm not using Betamax or VHS anymore. I overcame that. And there's a couple of formats I never adopted, like Blu-ray. I never adopted that. I was just like, it feels like a kind of interim format to me. So I never adopted Blu-ray. But I think I went straight from VHS, DVD, the digital versatile disc. Now that's a blast from the past. And it's funny, isn't it, when if you have an older car and it still has a CD slot in it. There's a CD slot in my car and I'm like, what do they expect me to put in there? Like a toasted sandwich? It's interesting, isn't it, how because they degrade, don't they? I mean, even they used to say that the reason that CD is so good is because it doesn't degrade like a cassette tape. But trust me, if you've got old CDs that have been sitting out in the sunlight, they're definitely going to degrade or get a bit of a scratch on them. So this is why this kind of digital format now is the future. Hard drives, history, solid-state drives, that's where it's at. And the prices are coming down and also things are smaller. And in fact, the technology that's in the computer now, actually in the Mac, is the same as is in the phone. It's like they're actually not that different anymore. And now with Apple have their new M1 chips, which have got the graphics card and the RAM and the processor all on the same chip. So there's so few things inside the computer these days. It's literally just the chip and the battery. And that's kind of it. It's so clever. We're miniaturizing everything. The tech is just getting smaller and smaller. And they announced 2 new MacBook Pros last week, Apple, didn't they? The M1 Max and the M1 Mega? Turbo? I don't know what it's called. Not in my price range. I'm still in 2011. But, maybe you've upgraded, recently, and maybe you want to share. Maybe you put down $2,000 and you're like, I'm telling everybody about this. You can message me via Backchannel. Just talk to your device. Use the word, the activation word, whatever you've set it at, but the default word, the female name, followed by say, followed by your message. And that's how you join me. It's 13 after 10 Pacific, 13 after 1 Eastern. This is the Anthony Davis Show on Backchannel. And thank you very much for spending your morning with us. And whatever it is you're doing, however you're enjoying your morning, maybe you're at work and you've got this on and you're wearing your headphones and you're just looking around the office and you're like, I really hope nobody's watching me watching this right now. If you're doing that, maybe you're at home. Maybe you're prepping some vegetables for a lovely casserole later. It's nice to get everything done so that you can just throw it in the pot. Whatever you're up to, I appreciate you spending your morning with me here as I sit in this quarantine space. It's very nice. I've actually got the builders working on the roof 2 floors above, and I can hear the distant sound of hammering. And at any point, the ceiling could come in, so just bear that in mind. That's why I need so much soundproofing, because there's a lot of noise up there. You can't hear it, but I can. And it's not putting me off at all. Delicious. So, as Backchannel evolves, we'll spend more time together, hopefully. More hosts coming onto the network all the time. And after this, your pal Hal will be here. And I spent a bit of time with my pal Hal yesterday. I watched him, listened in. What a lovely guy. Anyway, he'll be here straight after me in 45 minutes' time. He's probably watching this and preparing himself right now. And he's like, can't talk about that now. Can't talk about that now. Was going to be can't talk about that now. So, Hal, good luck with your new running order. That's just how it is, That's just how it is. We've been talking about one of Apple's first computers that's going on sale today. It's up for auction. It could earn as much as $600,000. I wonder who owns it, though. I wonder who's going to be the recipient. It's not Steve Wozniak, surely. He pretty much sold out. It was two Steves, right? Jobs and Wozniak. And Wozniak now just tours the world. I follow him on Twitter. He tours the world giving talks about how he started Apple in his garage in California. And Steve would come around. Steve was like the technical brain, and Steve was the marketing genius. And it was the pairing of these two young university graduates that created Apple. And just such a huge moment in US history, in popular cultural history. And it's kind of amazing, isn't it, how you look around and people judge you. If you've got an Apple phone, then you're in the group. But if you've got a non-Apple device, people are a little judgy. I am. And it's not my fault. I'm indoctrinated. I grew up with it. I have like the cheapest Apple phone you can get, the SE. It's like $350 or something. It's the cheapest one you can get. I don't need the latest stuff, but I like to be in the club. Just feel like that's where I need to be. So, are you a Mac or are you a PC? Are you an Apple phone or are you an Android phone? Just tell your device and consequently tell me. Just say the word say after your activation word and then your message. And then it'll just zoom right into this program. And you'll be part of the Anthony Davis Show here on Backchannel, which, incidentally, Monday to Friday, between 9 and 11 Pacific. You know what I'm talking about. I actually think, I briefly played the PC game when I very first got a computer. And Riyad's messaging me about this. He was like, I've done years on both types, but now he's stuck with Apple. You see, he tested it. He tested out the computer landscape, and he knew that one worked and the other one didn't. Because I actually have a theory about PCs. My theory is that when Bill Gates came up with the Microsoft personal computer, it didn't quite work, but it was brilliant because it was new, right? So he said to his engineers, I want you to make this faster and I want you to make it smaller. Because they were big old things when they started. And they went, well, but it doesn't quite work. It doesn't matter. Make it faster and smaller. And every year this kind of happened. And then they ended up with like Windows 2000. I remember those days. And it didn't really work particularly well, but it was fast and it was small. And so that's kind of why I never really adopted Windows so much. The whole kind of what you see is what you get drag and drop thing on Mac, it suited me more. Because if tell me, on a PC, do you still have the C colon drive and the A colon drive? Like, are they still like letters? Is that still a thing? When you go, because Mac always named everything, didn't they? It was called the desktop and it was called documents. And your drive was just like the floppy drive or whatever. But for some reason on Windows, it was like code. It was like MS-DOS. Oh, that seems like a long time ago. I haven't said MS-DOS for probably 25 years. I don't even know what it means. Fascinating. So, we're looking at this, just a little tech talk, that's all. Just a little bit of tech talk. And what are your memories of getting your first Apple device? And did it change your life? Did you recognize that there was this huge difference between one way of working and another way of working? Multitasking. That was kind of a real Apple thing, wasn't it? Being able to like upload a huge file at the same time as just doing other documents and stuff. I remember when I first got my Mac connected to the internet. That was a big deal for me with a 56K dial-up modem. And it made that sound like a fax machine. And I was like, what is happening here? And then data, like a picture or whatever, would slowly download from the top down. And I would look at this thing and I'd be like, this is a miracle. It's a modern miracle. And now, of course, I'm complaining that my 500 megabits per second is not fast enough. I mean, what an ungrateful girl I am. Let's talk about something else as well, because I want to kind of keep a few things going at once. It's good I'm multitasking, I'm just Apple through and through. I'm multitasking. There's an interesting story about the bullet airplane that could revolutionize business aviation. They say, is it an egg? Is it a blimp? Or is it a bullet? Whatever you might want to call the shape of the Otto Celery 500L, it's one that catches the eye. It looks like no other plane out there, and for good reason. Unique aerodynamics. The shape of the Celery is designed to drastically reduce drag by allowing air to flow very smoothly over the surface of the plane. That makes the aircraft less power hungry, which means it burns less fuel. And they say this gets us to 4 or 5 times the efficiency of other turboprop aircraft and 7 to 8 times the efficiency of jet aircraft, said the CEO of Otto Aviation that created this thing. And just to explain what this looks like, this is like a small private jet-size aeroplane with like a very long wing, but it looks like a bullet. Like the shape of it is not like aeroplane-like. It's like shaped like a bullet. It has a small tail fin and vertical stabilizer, and it's really kind of interesting. Anyway, in numbers, they say, it means operating costs that trounce those of similarly sized business planes. According to Otto Aviation, flying on the Celery will cost $328 an hour compared to $2,100 an hour, with a fuel economy of 18 to 25 miles per gallon, similar to that of a large SUV compared to 2 or 3 miles per gallon. I mean, they really do need to think about, revolutionizing the fuel efficiency of aeroplanes. It's a big deal, having aircraft flying all over the place, and yet putting out, we see the chemtrails in the sky, don't we? We see the exhaust, the residual effect of the exhaust. If the atmospheric pressure is right, they leave a trail. It's very interesting. Anyway, it's in prototype at the moment, and it's a very interesting looking aeroplane. And I do kind of feel like we're at this kind of cusp point now where we're just living in a time where we're going to see huge change. People driving electric cars, as we were discussing yesterday, but it's going to have to be the same in aviation. We're going to have to go to electric planes or very fuel-efficient planes. So the aircraft is the work of a company based in California. They're called Otto Aviation. It's a 6-person private craft, and it promises to fly at jet speeds, but with 8 times lower fuel consumption and a range that's twice that of a comparatively sized aircraft. It'll do 460 miles an hour. And, I mean, what's the fanciest aeroplane experience you've ever had? Have you ever been on, like, a first-class experience, like a private jet? I know here in California, in some of the smaller airports, there's an airline called Jet Suite X. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's like a regional jet, but they've put just business class type seats in, nice big comfy seats. There's only like 50 seats in the whole plane. And you don't go to the airport terminal. You just show up at the hangar, their hangar, and you do all your security checks at the hangar, and then you just walk out onto the apron of the airfield, and you just get straight onto the plane. It's very interesting. I think people it's a little bit like having a Mac, isn't it? There's this kind of feeling of luxury and exclusivity that can be affordable to regular people, especially at 0% finance. Interest-free credit. So, this is something that kind of interests me quite a lot. And it's something that I really feel like aviation is hopefully changing for the better. So, what have you been on? What have you traveled on? What's your most exciting airplane experience? And do you feel like we are at a turning point, really, for aviation? Because some of the newer planes, the Dreamliner, which is the Boeing plane, that's been around for nearly 10 years now. But that really caught people's imagination because they called it the Dreamliner. Its real name is the 787, right? The 787, the 800, the 900, the 1000. This is depending on how stretched or, the long one is the 1000 series. The 900 is probably the more well-known size. And the 800 was one that first came out. United Airlines were the first to get that. It was actually ordered for Continental, but United bought Continental and then they ended up with their original 787s. I've been on those. And they were exciting because they had bigger windows, they had those electric kind of photochromic changing. They didn't have the window blinds. People really liked that. They pressurized the cabin at a lower altitude, so the air felt nicer on the plane. It all felt like a kind of nicer experience. And that really caught the imagination of the public. So people would actually actively look to fly on a Dreamliner. And interestingly, that was 10 years ago. And still people are trying to book a Dreamliner because they think it's a nicer experience. And it is. It's a quieter aeroplane, more comfortable. But Airbus, of course, the famous European rival to America's Boeing, they now have the A350, which is like a better version of the Dreamliner. Also has the big windows. Fortunately, the window blinds are back. I'm a big fan of the window blind. For me, pressing the button and having it change color slowly, if you were doing like a night flight, which I used to do a lot, flying between Europe and America, if you were doing a night flight, you could never get that thing like completely dark, like you could do with a window blind. And so it was always very interesting to me that Airbus could have adopted the window changing technology, and they never did. Because they were like, it's not that good. Anyway, so this has the window blind, but it has a bigger window, which means you don't have to sit in the window seat to be able to see out of the window, which is great. But they also pressurize the cabin at a lower altitude, which means that the air is nicer. They have more kind of filtration for the air, which is great during a pandemic. If you're flying during a pandemic, they repurpose the air. They refresh the cabin air every 2 or 3 minutes through the whole aeroplane. Amazing. I don't know how they do that. They do. It's quite complicated. It's called bleed air if you want to look it up. How do I know this stuff? Who am I? Earl Grey tea, which is mostly on my nose, not in my mouth. So I was just asking you, off the back of this new bullet-style aeroplane that could revolutionize business aviation, and I've not flown on a business jet, like a private jet. I went on one. There was one parked up at Van Nuys Airport, which is where a lot of the business jets come in and out of Los Angeles. And I actually did go on one and just sit on it for a minute, just as an experience. I think it belonged to Ringo Starr, or I think he was using it. It's a long story. I don't know how that came about. Well, I do, but I'm not going to bore you with it. But the point is, it's a very comfortable. It was like a Citation or one of these, very fast business jets. But what's been your greatest aviation experience? Have you ever stumped up for business class? Not me. Put me in the cheapest seat. Just make sure it's on a bulkhead so I can use my legs. There's lots of tricks to getting upgraded. We could talk about this on another day, but there's a lot of tricks to getting upgraded. And my first advice, this really is where it starts and where it ends, is dress nicely for the airport. Don't come in your pajamas. Dress like a business class passenger, and then you're more likely to get upgraded. They scout the terminal building looking for people with nice shoes. And the downside to that is it's quite uncomfortable to wear a kind of nice business shoe, a court shoe, or whatever you choose to call it, on a flight. But it's worth it for the upgrade. So what's the fanciest aeroplane experience you've ever had? Have you ever traveled first class? And have you ever had a free upgrade? The only time I kind of got a free upgrade on the spot, and this is a little bit of a morbid story, but I'm going to tell it briefly anyway, is I'd flown to London because my father passed away, and I told the captain that had happened when I was getting back on the plane that very day. And he was like, seriously? And I was like, yeah, it was happened 5 hours ago. And he upgraded me to first class. British Airways. Maybe that's a policy. If you've lost a parent recently, then you're guaranteed an upgrade. So maybe you might want to consider that as an excuse. Up to you. So, yeah, that's my experience. And it was very nice, lying down, and they were bringing me food, and I was full. I was like, I literally can't eat anymore. And they were like, more food? I was like, okay. Amazing. So there is some good out there in this world. It's always good to know. It's exactly 10:30 Pacific. It's 1:30 Eastern. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show, Monday through Friday between 9 and 11. And thank you for joining us. Don't forget you can join in with the show. The whole point of Backchannel is that you get to communicate with the show without typing, without texting, no equipment. You just talk to your Echo Show device. You just say out loud your activation word, Echo, or the default word, the female name, and then you say the word say, which is the magic word, and then your message. So you would say, Echo, say, I have flown in first class, and I will literally see that here. It will pop up in a pop-up. Literally. That's how it works. And that's what Backchannel is all about. It's about you communicating with the hosts without having to touch your phone. It means you can get on with your life, you can do your stuff, you can have a nice time, and it just works. Very clever. So, yeah, let us know if you yourself have experienced any kind of high-quality, exclusive, something other than Coach. Because Coach is not healthy. Really isn't. Especially if you're one of those people that ends up with the middle seat. Well, I feel very sorry. Hi to Riyadh, hi to Rihanna, both in California, both enjoying the Backchannel experience this morning, and you can too. And if you haven't yet bought an Echo Show, maybe you're listening to this and you're just hearing the audio, but you don't realize there's a whole video element to it as well, then you can order with next day delivery your Echo Show device from Amazon. It'll show up, and it'll even come preloaded with your Amazon account in it. And I use mine for ordering groceries and stuff. I talk to it it's like a kind of personal service in the kitchen, because I have mine in the kitchen. I don't know why it feels like a kitchen-y device. It just does. Is kitchen-y a word? Don't judge me for kitchen-y. Now, sticking to the travel theme, we're going to go a little further with this, with SpaceX. I don't know if you are familiar with Elon Musk's kind of rocket ships. We actually see them taking off here sometimes. If it's a clear day and he's having a launch, you can actually see them in California. And you can see what's the residual effect of his rocket launches. It's quite amazing. So the headline on this, SpaceX splashdown, astronauts return home from 6-month ISS mission. That's right, 4 astronauts. They splashed down off the coast of Florida aboard their SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, capping off their 6-month stay in space. Their journey kicked off on Monday, just after 2 p.m. Eastern, when the astronauts strapped into the Crew Dragon capsule, which had remained attached to the International Space Station since it arrived with the crew in April. And the spacecraft has spent nearly 9 hours slowly maneuvering through orbit, approaching the thick inner layer of Earth's atmosphere, before the Crew Dragon lit up the thrusters to safely slice into the air, deploy parachutes, and splash down in the Gulf of Mexico at around 10:30 p.m. last night. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it really is. It's beyond my mind that this is possible. Oh, hi, Jessica. Thank you for joining the stream. So nice to know that you're joining in. We've been talking about so much. And where have you been? I mean, we were going for an hour and 33 minutes. We've been asking if you've ever flown first class and if you've ever had a kind of luxury aviation experience. This is off the back of a new Bullet-style business jet that's been announced from a company in California that is going to be 8 times more fuel efficient than any equivalent aeroplane. It does look pretty amazing. I'm so pleased that the aviation industry is making some efforts towards reducing carbon emission, because they really are quite a significant problem. I think Virgin Atlantic for a while were trialing biofuel. It was just leftover food waste, and they were using that. I think it was mixed with aviation fuel to reduce it still had what was necessary to be able to burn it in the engine, but it just wasn't as potent as using pure gas. Anyway, slightly different story. But I'm very interested in SpaceX and this whole concept of space exploration. But I do struggle a little bit with the fact that we're living at a time now where what's happening on Earth is so desperate. Not just the pandemic, but just we're going through so much political turmoil and social issues and whether it be race or whether it be economic, socio-economic, we've got so many problems on this planet. And it does make me think, do we really want to be spending billions of dollars flying into space? Is now really the time? But, maybe you have a view on this. So where do you stand on the space exploration issue? And it's one that does divide people. Is it an incredible feat? Or should we be focusing more on planet Earth instead? Where do you stand on this issue? You can talk to your Echo Show device. Just say your activation word, followed by say, followed by your message. And that's how you talk to Backchannel. It's 10:35 Pacific. I'm Anthony Davis. Welcome to the Anthony Davis Show, which is here Monday through Friday between 9 and 11. And we look through the morning papers all over the USA, see what's happening across the world, but we also focus on some of these stories that are of particular interest today. We've been looking at the Apple computer that's gone up for sale. It might make $600,000 at auction. We've been talking about technology and whether or not you are an early adopter, whether you're a Mac or a PC person, and whether or not you, like me, prefer to use older tech and just keep it working. I just don't buy new stuff. Not unless I'm desperate. And we've been looking also about space and, whether or not you are one of these people that believes in the importance of space exploration. Not so much the space race anymore, because, the International Space Station, where this ship that just came back from its 6-month mission aboard the ISS, that's a truly international venture. There's Russians up there, there's Chinese up there. It's a bit like the cantina in Star Wars. There's a little bit of everything going on up there. There's a very ugly band playing as well in the corner. We don't serve your kind in here. So I'm just really interested in your views on space exploration, considering that planet Earth is not in the greatest position. And maybe, let's be honest, maybe it is time to relocate. Maybe now is the time to get up and go. Mars. What choice do we really have? We've got probes on Mars, haven't we? We've got robots there at the moment, and they're sending back amazing pictures, and they're up there for years. The moon, obviously, it's arguable whether we really went to the moon or not. The jury is still out for me. I think we probably did, but I'm still not convinced. Because, the space race, I'm not 100%. I'm 90% that we went. That's where I'm at. I'm 90%. You got to remember, the 1960s was the Cold War. It was like a space race. Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space, and he was a Russian, and that really annoyed the Americans. And you had Nixon, and of course, if it's possible to kind of do it in a studio and make it look convincing, then you're a winner. This is the city of Hollywood. They can do anything. There's a very good film. There was a very good film that was like a spoof on this called Capricorn 1 about faking a mission to Mars. You should definitely watch it. Riyadh, what do you think? Did we really go to the moon? Jessica, what do you think? Just say to your device, whatever your wake word is, followed by the magic word say, and then your message. Hi, David. Thanks for joining the stream. Nice to know that you're part of the show. I'm Anthony. This is Backchannel. You're welcome to join in with the conversation, if indeed we really did go to the moon. It's a controversial subject. I'm 90% convinced that we did. Riyadh says, of course we did. Yeah, I don't know. Where does my skepticism come from? Where is that? Boy, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Maybe because it just feels so unbelievable. Do you think that's what it is? Just feels... Because, the conspiracy theorists say that there is a belt of radiation called the Van Allen radiation belt that is impossible to penetrate, especially in a craft that is just covered in, silver foil. I don't know. Louis Armstrong and Buzz Lightyear, the first two men on the moon, they, anybody that questioned them, I think Buzz Lightyear threw a few punches with people who were questioning whether it really happened. Jessica says she leans towards yes. Well, you see, that's where I'm at. I'm just this is me leaning towards yes. It's just just 10 degrees. It's very hard, isn't it? Why haven't they been back? Why haven't they been back? To infinity and beyond, yes. The great Buzz Lightyear, second man on the moon. How did it feel, do you think, for Buzz to be the second man? Once Louis Armstrong had already put his feet down, I want to know who put the camera down there. Who got out? Was there another person? I mean, I know that there was the third guy who was like flying the lem, but who filmed them coming down the step? Did someone get out first? Did Buzz Lightyear get out first, set up the camera, get back in again, say to Louis Armstrong, okay, you get down, and then make it look like you're the first man on the moon, and then you can say one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind? Riyadh said Kubrick. That's right, that's the conspiracy theory, is that Kubrick directed the moon landings. Interesting. Very interesting. You can let me know your view just by joining Backchannel in the usual way. Just say your activation word, followed by say, followed by your message. That's how it works on Backchannel. It's called Backchannel for a reason. You and I can have this conversation at any time. It's 10:41 Pacific. You have me until 11, and then your pal Hal will be here doing exactly the same thing, just with a very slightly different background and different points of conversation. But you can still communicate with him in the same way that you have now. My name's Anthony Davis. I'm here between 9 and 11 Pacific. That's 12 and 2 Eastern, Monday through Friday. So we've been talking a little bit about technology, about if you're a Mac or if you're a PC. We've also been talking about aviation, if you've had a first-class flying experience that you want to share with us. And also that, I'm almost embarrassed to say it out loud. Did we land on the moon? I don't know. I never thought I'd be having this conversation now. This is the kind of thing that I might say if I've had a margarita and pizza, not drink, pizza, and I'm like a little bit, ooh, and I'm just like, did we? You know? It's very, very interesting. Because, I think I watched a documentary years ago, and it was called Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon? I can recall that because I have a photographic memory, so I can remember what it looked like when the graphics came up at the beginning. But I think it was made by Fox, and I think it was one of these, just stimulate you to kind of get you riled up. I don't know that there was any truth to it or not, but there was a lot of compelling arguments about the Hasselblad cameras that they used, and when you look back at some of those amazing moon landing photographs on the moon, some of the crosshairs from the pictures are behind rocks instead of in front of the rocks, like they've been comped in some way. It's very interesting. And also they talk about the flag waving, you know? They say the flag is waving when they put it in the ground, when Buzz and Louis put it in the ground. And they say, well, there's no atmosphere, there's no wind, so how would it wave? That was one of the conspiracy. I have a view on that, and that is that it's not waving, but because they wanted the flag to be upright and not be limp, they had a pole going out as well as up. So the pole that went out was holding the flag, and of course, if you wiggle it to put it into the ground, it's going to flap around a bit. And I think that was the explanation for that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm saying this from a good place. I want them to have been to them. Of course I do. It's probably the greatest achievement that humans have made. Notice I didn't say man has made, because I don't believe that. There was a whole lot of women at Capcom who were making that work, who were a big part of that. But, the 1960s was very man-heavy. And the tragedy is, if you look in the modern day, especially when it comes to coronavirus, you look at any country that's run by women, and you'll see that they kind of held it together much better than the men did. Hi, Michael. Thank you for joining the stream this morning. Nice to know that you're listening. And and watching as well, of course. This is a visual medium. Michael's in California. Jessica's in California. David's in California. Rihanna's in California. Is there anybody not in California that's watching this? It would be really nice to get to know you. You can introduce yourself to your Echo Show device if you haven't done it before. If it's the first time that you are communicating with Backchannel and you ask your device to open Backchannel, then a lovely female voice will come on. It'll ask you your name and where you're from. And that's the only time you have to introduce yourself. That's it. From that point, your Echo Show will remember this detail, and it will be able to communicate with you, and you'll be able to communicate with it seamlessly. Very clever. Anyway, I'm Anthony. Nice to meet you, Michael. Thank you for joining us. So we've been looking at this story about 4 astronauts who splashed down off the coast of Florida aboard their SpaceX Dragon capsule, which I think is, really kind of nice to know that they came back alive. It's a little bit like when Jeff Bezos and his brother, they came back alive. William Shatner came back alive. Richard Branson came back alive. That's all we ask for. If it doesn't work out up there, that's fine. As long as you come back alive. That's all that matters. Even if the spacecraft doesn't survive, just come back alive. On this day, here in the United States of America, November the 9th, is it the 9th? It is! My birthday's in like 7 days. November the 9th, 1906, Theodore Roosevelt was the first U.S. president to visit another country. On this day, in 1906. Isn't that amazing? Guess where he went? Guess, of all the countries that President Roosevelt got to choose to visit, guess where he chose? Any ideas? Just shout it out to your device. Use your activation word, then say, and then your message. And I'll tell you where he went in just a minute. Don't look it up on the Googles. Don't do that. Join in, play the game. Just let me know. Where do you think Roosevelt chose as the first country? He actually went to 2 places, but where do you think he went? And what was the first country you went? Because the thing is, if you live in the US, I think the statistic is that only 50% of people that live in the United States actually have a passport. It's interesting, isn't it? There's so much in this country. There's Disneyland in California and there's Disneyland in Florida. What more do you want? I wonder if there's people in California, people that live in California, that for their vacation decide to go to Florida Disneyland for a vacation just to shake things up a bit, to see if it's different. Jessica says, England. Is that the first place you've been or the first place you'd like to go? I would definitely go there with you. I could show you around. I know it kind of well. So we're asking where Roosevelt went on his first trip, and I'm also asking where was the first country you visited outside of where you were born? I mean, obviously, I was born in the United Kingdom of England. You've probably worked that out by now. I'm a Londoner. But, I chose to make California my home. But the good thing about living in Europe is that everywhere is so close. So we would go to Spain all the time. We would go to Rome and Venice and Florence, and no one went to Milan. It's like an industrial, Jessica said her first trip out of the US was to Cuba. Wow. Do you know that's totally on my list of places to go? Because I really want to see Cuba before it. I mean, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But I really want to see those old cars and the whole. It's like going back in time, right? This is because of, trade embargoes have prevented Cuba from evolving and getting new cars. You don't see a Mitsubishi Outlander in Cuba. You just don't. Not even the plug-in hybrid version. They don't even have anywhere to plug it in. So you can chat with me and be part of the program, as it says on the screen right now. All you have to do is say your activation word, followed by say, and then followed by your message. And then it'll just become part of the program, as if by magic. What was the first country outside of where you were born that you visited? And if you've not been outside the USA, which country would be first on your list? Let me know in the usual way here on Backchannel. We've been talking about Theodore Roosevelt. He was the first commander-in-chief to travel outside of the US on official business. I'll tell you in just a minute. I'm still waiting for a couple of people to kind of suggest where he might have been, to get it wrong a couple of times. Because then it really is like we're playing a game. Don't know the answer to this. Just give me some wrong answers. Where did he go? First place out of the US. I mean, is it surprising? I don't know if it's that surprising. So let me know and do it in the usual way. I do get the feeling, though, that if you're the president, you have a choice of going anywhere. I mean, that's kind of quite a gift, isn't it? Where to go. But it was 1906, so he was kind of limited. There wasn't much aviation in 1906. A little bit, but not much. It wasn't like, wasn't like flying first class on Emirates. It's interesting, the Middle Eastern airlines, they are the most luxurious. We were talking earlier about business class and first class and like that experience versus sitting in the back in coach. The Middle Eastern airlines, they have the most luxurious experience. If you're in business class on Emirates or Etihad or what's the other one? There's a third one. I can't remember. Oh, Jan's here. Hi, Jan. Welcome to the show. What a pleasure. I'm Anthony. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Backchannel. Yeah, the Middle Eastern airlines really do the best. There's a big difference between American Airlines and a Middle Eastern airline in business class. They just throw you a cheesy pizza on American Airlines. It's cultural. I love it. So where did President Theodore Roosevelt go on his first trip to another country? This is what we've been asking. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds and then I'm going to give you the answer because I appreciate that you can't really start your day until you know the answer to this because it's just imperative. You ready? Where did he go? 1906. Theodore Roosevelt, first president to visit another country. He went to... This is a very silent drum roll. We don't have the facilities yet, but we will one day. Puerto Rico and Panama. That's where he went. Puerto Rico and Panama. Of course he did. I wonder how he went there. I wonder if he flew or if he took a boat. Be interesting to know. Through the Panama Canal. That's obviously it's a big deal now, isn't it? The Panama Canal. If you go on a cruise ship and you're traveling, this is an essential part of getting between the East and the West. It says Theodore Roosevelt was the first commander-in-chief to travel outside the U.S. on official business when he sailed. You see, he sailed to Panama. In November 1906, Roosevelt made the trip in order to inspect the construction of the Panama Canal, a project he'd championed. In 1943, in the midst of World War II, Roosevelt's fifth cousin, Franklin, became the first sitting American president to fly on an aeroplane when he journeyed to Casablanca, Morocco, for a strategy meeting with the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. Franklin Roosevelt took to the skies in a commercial aircraft the following year. For the first time ever, a plane was configured specifically for presidential use. So I'm guessing they fitted him with a widescreen television, Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV+. What's the other one? HBO Max. I mean, he probably didn't even want to get off the plane. He had so much choice. He would have loved Succession. It says that other commanders-in-chief who were among the earliest to venture beyond America's borders while in office include William Taft, who in 1909 made the first U.S. presidential visit to Mexico. 1923, Warren Harding became the first to visit America's neighbor in the north, Canada. He stopped in Vancouver on his way back from the first ever presidential trip to Alaska. Isn't that fascinating? It's so interesting to me that, the timing of the history of flight, the Wright brothers, the invention of flight, commercial flight, the first flights, flying in the DC-3 and the Comet and these very early airplanes, very interesting to me. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow because we're kind of running out of time. And your pal Hal is on the way in just about 3 or 4 minutes. So you'll get a chance to spend some time with him. And throughout the rest of the day, all the hosts that are part of Backchannel. And you can have it on as long as you like. So thank you to Jan, thank you to Jessica, thank you to Michael, thank you to everybody that's been part of the show today, Rihanna and Riyadh. And if you've tuned in and if you've been part of this, then thank you. This is for you. It's my pleasure. And I'll be back tomorrow at a similar time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 9, 10, 11, noon Eastern. Just getting my head around the time difference. But right now, there'll be a brief pause. You'll see a countdown clock, and it gives you a chance to refresh yourself, a little mouthwash maybe, kick back, maybe change your clothes, put on something more comfortable, and stand by for your pal Hal next on Backchannel.